Hello.
Okay, that's great. Great to have everybody here and great to be here. Uh, I think first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be back in the house. I think it's been a while since I connected to the rest of everybody, so it's good to be here with everybody. Uh, I think one thing I just like to quickly just make in terms of perspective shift with regards to what I'm going to be talking about. I think it'll be good for us to just realize that what I'm going to be talking about today is not just something for those who have a professional career. It's important to realize that even if you're running your own business, what I'm going to be talking to you, what I'm going to be talking about today, is still very much relevant. The goal for everything, really, by the end of today's conversation, is that you should be able to learn, have the right philosophy, have the right skills to be able to stand out in the competitive workplace. And it doesn't matter whether it's you running your own business, whether it's that you work for somebody else. So, thank you very much. For those who have not had the opportunity of meeting me, I think we just made the assumption that everybody here knows me. But I think from some of the conversations I've seen that has happened a number of times, there are people's names that I just see and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely an old timer. I think I've definitely expired after a long time. So, just to give you context, my name is Tola Akinsulire. I used to be a volunteer with Solid Foundation for a couple of years. I've had a professional career that has taken me across different countries, French speaking, Spanish speaking, and of course English speaking from being in Nigeria. So what I'm going to be sharing with you is a distillation of my experiences in terms of how I've been able to navigate and successfully transition across different locations, across different career experiences. So how do you stand out in a competitive workplace? Well, for me, there are three things that you consistently need to have as an individual to be able to stand out in the workplace. Number one, you need to have personal power. And then number two, you need to have professional power. And then number three, you need to have organizational power. Now, those things that I've just said have just succeeded in confusing somebody else because the person probably doesn't understand what I've said from the moment I started. What does personal power mean? Well, personal power, first and power, just simply means it's the ability to live your life on the basis of what really, really is important to you. You're basically able to live your life based on what is really essential to you. Now, this is very, very much important. The reason why this is important is that a lot of times when you come into the workplace, you find yourself basically adapting to whatever you meet in the workplace, whether it's the people that you find yourself within the workplace, wherever it is that you're working, or locations that you find yourself. I know there are some of you that are in different parts of the world, and you find out that for some of you, you probably are adapting to the locations, but you need to have a strong sense of personal power. This is very, very much, this is the foundation to a successful career. Now, I've told you you need to have personal power, but how do you really, really decide? How do you really achieve that? No. So, number one, the first thing you need to have here is this. You need to have a clear set of values that define what is important to you. I'm going to repeat that. You need to have a clear set of values that define what is important to you. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of people talking about personal branding, people talk about organizational branding, people talk about how it is that you show up in the workplace. You see, unless you have a clear set of personal values that remain consistent every single day, every single moment which you show up, you find yourself adapting and shifting to whatever situation, environment that you find yourself in. For example, I'm sure you've probably heard of this, people telling you that you need to have work-life balance. I have a problem with that, and I'll tell you the problem is that you're putting work on one side, you put life on the other side, and you're basically saying, oh, you're trying to balance on one side. They are like two opposing ends. Whereas for me, I believe that look, if you have a clear set of values, what you're able to do is you're able to bring work and life under those set of values. And this is very important because you have to realize that look, even in your work career, there are some times in which you have to be unbalanced in one particular area. Let me explain it. So let's imagine uh, for those of you who have kids, you've already promised your kid that you're going to show up to whatever school event. Let's say they have a school event by 12 o'clock. You've already promised that you're going to show up for that particular event. And it so happens just around 10 o'clock when you're about to leave the office, your boss calls you and tells you that, look, there's this client, the report we are supposed to deliver maybe on Friday. Let's imagine today is Tuesday. The report you are supposed to deliver on Friday, you have to, it's been pulled back, and we now have to deliver it the next day. And you're telling your boss that, I mean, you're thinking at that particular point in time that, look, I have a commitment to my kid. I have already said I'm going to show up for that particular event. And then you also have this work commitment that you have to keep. So how do you make that decision? Look, you have to be ready to unbalance it. Number one here is this. You need to tell yourself what really, really matters most to you at that particular point in time. And what do you really have the capacity to be able to keep? So for example, the way I would handle that situation is this. And that is based on the fact that my own personal values, my top three personal values are faith, family, and freedom. And so because those are my three personal values, family means that, look, I have to keep that commitment that I have made to my son. But what that also means that, look, in the evenings, instead of me spending the evening with the family, hanging out with the family, I'm going to spend the evening trying to make sure that, look, I catch up with whatever I was not able to catch up with during the day, simply because I kept that commitment. So that means that, look, for that particular point in time, during the day, I have unbalanced work by not staying at work and going to my child's event. But at the same time, in the evening, I've unbalanced family, because instead of spending time with the family, I've decided that, look, I'm going to try and catch up and keep up to the commitments that I've made to the workplace. But it all starts with you having a clear set of values that really, really define what is important to you. And this could apply to any aspect of life, whether it is regular decision making that you want to make. Because, like I said, having this clear set of personal values also even define your personal brand. You know, everybody talks about personal brand in terms of how you show up at work. But for you to be able to show up to work in a way that is consistent, you need to have a strong set of values. I remember there was a time in the workplace that I was working in a couple of years back. There was this assessment that they had us do, and in the assessment there were two outcomes. One outcome was supposed to be the people, the way in which you portray yourself to people, and then the second outcome was supposed to be the way in which you show up on your internal side. It was interesting that I was the only one in which my two circles were almost like the same thing. And, you know, because everybody's own was all different, so I thought mine was the unusual one. So I was like, excuse me, my result is different from every other person's result. And the person actually said, oh, that's interesting. That means you are consistently the same thing. You show up as the same person at every single point in time. And it was interesting. Everybody who are all my colleagues in the office, everybody said, yeah, Tola is the same thing at every single point in time, which is why it's very important. It's very important you have a clear set of personal values that define what is important to you, so that you are consistent in the way you show up. Now, the second thing you need to have in place to have the kind of person power that helps you to excel in the workplace, you need to have a set of relationships that help to push you to the next level in life. Now, relationships is actually one of those dicey conversations, because I'm sure you probably see all these things flying about in social media where people talk about the fact that, oh, you can't trust people, you can't do this, etc. Oh, it's difficult to find friends, it's difficult to find people that you can really keep up with. You know, especially for some of you guys that have actually traveled out of Nigeria, trying to start up in a new location, trying to find friends. You're like, oh, having that sort of connection is difficult. And I always tell people that, look, don't start from the big part, start from the simple part. The first thing which you need to do is this. You need to even have a structure in place for you to maintain the existing network of friends that you have. So let me tell you this. Every single relationship that I have, no matter what level, whether they are close or general people, one thing I'm committed to do, I'm committed to celebrating their special day. So everybody gets a personalized birthday greeting from me. Personalized birthday greeting. It's not going to be like the general, oh, happy birthday, HBD, LLP. I honestly don't know why people can't just write happy birthday fully and write HBD, or long life and prosperity, right? Anyway, that's a different matter. But that's one of the things in which I'm committed to do. If there is a special, maybe a wedding anniversary, there's a special milestone event, I'm committed to celebrating that with them. That's how I do from people on every one of them, whether it's people who are close to me or people who are, that's a framework which I've had at the back of my mind at every single time. Now, the next thing which I now do is, look, there are some people in which I believe I need to have a closer engagement with them. I need to have a deeper relationship with them. For those people, what I do is I bring them into my inner circle. Look, I remember when I was transferred to Senegal. I worked in Senegal for a couple of years. Now, when I first got to Senegal, one of the things that has always been my fallback strategy when I get into a new location, of finding, as it were, a base of people that reflects things that are common to me, is basically use a home church. But it so happened I moved to Senegal towards the tail end of COVID, when it was impossible for you to have physical gatherings. So my church even the church I was going to be part of, was basically online at that particular point in time. And to add to it, the bulk of the people that were around me were all French speakers. And so I had two choices. I could either be lonely and be complaining about the fact that, oh, it's not easy transitioning to a new country, difficulty, you're all alone and everything. No, what I decided to do is this. I just sat down, I picked up my phone, I looked at the names of 6 of my friends. I sent a personalized WhatsApp message to everybody. It was pretty simple. I said, "Hi guys, I'm looking at starting a mastermind of just between just about 6 to 7 of us. The mastermind is going to focus on our professional careers, family life, faith, and our personal development. If you are, and the commitment is for an initial 6 months. If after 6 months you feel you don't want to continue with it, we can always drop it. If you are interested in this, let's go on." I sent it to 6 people. 5 people said yes, and the 5 people that have said yes, we've continued years continuously. It got to a point we stopped renewing because every 6 months, everybody was always renewing. Everybody was always renewing, and that was how I was able to navigate instead of me being lonely. And that collection of people, we've actually become a deeper source of strength to one another, whereby, for example, one person is coming up, "Oh, I have this idea I'm thinking of doing," and then everybody is giving connections. "Oh, speak to this person, speak to this person, I'll refer this person to you, I'll refer this person to you," and it just keeps on going on and on. I mean, one of us recently, he got a job and it was like, "Oh, my job is going to involve me going to Ghana to try and prospect for business," and that's how within the group. So now I know somebody in Ghana. "Oh, I can give you this person's contact, I can give you this person's contact." Pretty simple as that. But all I had to do was just take responsibility. That look, instead of me sitting down and complaining that I don't have the relationships to be able to navigate this particular stage of life, I took action, and that's what I believe each one of us can do in terms of building the right relationship for whatever group. And like I said, the way in which I structured it, I make it 6 months commitment. If after 6 months you feel that this group is not working, everybody goes on their merry way. It's not working, and you just try with another group and pop your uncle until you find the final answer. Now, the third thing you need to have in place in building your personal power is this: you need to have a clear financial future that you have for yourself. Now, this is very, very much important because of the pressures that you're going to face in the workplace when it comes to the issue of money. There's a story of someone that I always like, that always impresses me, and that's the story of Warren Buffett. I'm sure most of you have heard the fact that Warren Buffett lives in the same house for more than 4 decades, same house. Because why? He has defined the level of prosperity that he wants to be at, and it doesn't matter the level of accumulation, the level of wealth that he has, he's going to stay on that level of prosperity. And it's very, very much important to know clearly for yourself the level of prosperity that you need, because when you have clear definitions in terms of the level of prosperity you want to achieve in life, it's a lot easier when it comes to making decisions about work, about life, and literally everything. So you notice something that one of the things which I dealt with in talking about your personal power, I dealt with 3 stress points, some of the 3 important stress points that you have. 1, your self-identity, which is driven by your values. Number 2, relationships. And then number 3, money. Those are 3 pressure points that, look, once you can address that, it becomes a lot easier when you get to the next part of actually navigating your professional power. So we're done with everything that has to do with personal power. Let's go into professional power. Now, professional power is basically your ability to deliver results. And really, everybody is measured on the job based on your ability to deliver results. Interestingly, I was having a conversation with a group of people today, and I was telling them that, look, efforts is the comfort that we give ourselves that we're trying, but results is really what gets us measured in the workplace. So irrespective of whatever it is that you think, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm spending sleepless nights in the workplace," my guy, the most important thing that counts is your results. And so for you to deliver results, number one thing which you need to be clear about here is this: you need to have the right skills and motivation to deliver superior on the job performance. Now, there are 2 things I've told you there: skills and motivation. Now, for most of us, the way in which we look at motivation, we're like, it has to be a particular job, it has to be this particular job, this job has to motivate me, this job has to instill that. That kind of motivation is not what I'm talking about, because the problem with that kind of motivation is that it ebbs
Okay,
and flows. It
sorry.
ebbs and flows. Do you understand? That's the problem with that kind of motivation. But the kind of motivation that I'm talking about is the motivation that is intrinsic to you. One of the reasons why I spent time talking about your personal power, talking about you to be clear on your values, to be clear on the relationship that will help you get to where you want to get in life, and to have a clear money future, is because those are the intrinsic motivations that you need to have. Let me explain what I mean. For example, let's imagine that you are on a job that aligns with the values that are very important to you. I can imagine how you will show up to the workplace every single day. You would show up to the workplace having a different sense of motivation than somebody else who is only showing up simply for the job. Because why? You know that, look, there's a destination that you are expecting yourself to get to, simply because you've aligned the job that you have chosen with the motivation, I mean, with the values that are important to you, with the relationships that are able to support you in that regard, and with the financial future that you have. But let's even imagine that, look, you actually are in a job that doesn't help you align with all these three. You know what happens? Then you now have to focus on the next thing. You know, I told you that, look, you need to have the right skills and motivation to deliver superior on the job results. You now need to focus on the skills that you need to be able to get the right job that actually delivers what you want. It's very, very much important, you know. And unless we realize that skills and motivation are the things that help you drive whatever how you show up on the workplace every single day, what you end up doing is you end up keep on running in a conundrum. And when we talk about skills, I always like to split skills into three classes when it comes to different types of job. There is your personal skills, there is your technical skills, and your transcendent skills. Your personal skills are your skills that have to do with your personality, whether you are a friendly person, whether you're someone who is detailed oriented, all those sort of personality traits. And there are some jobs that require a particular set of personality traits. Now, when you go to technical skills are where you talk about your application-based technical skills. Maybe there's a particular application, and then you talk about industry-based knowledge. For example, if you have particular industry research information that puts you ahead of everybody else, those are what you call your technical skills. And of course, there's also on-the-job performance, whereby your ability to actually do the job better than any other person, maybe based on your skill, that your certifications that you've already had. Now, the other thing which I call, the other skills which I actually find are the skills I call your transcendent skills. Now, the reason why I call them your transcendent skills is that these skills will help you succeed on any job, irrespective of the industry. So, for example, let's imagine you are entering into an industry which you didn't know anything about. With your transcendent skills, and let me give you an example of the transcendent skill, your business acumen. Business acumen is basically your ability to know what it takes to make what it makes for a business to actually succeed. So, for example, everybody is basically facing a problem, and the only thing everybody is talking about is the problem. But from your perspective, you are able to identify what is the clear intention that the business needs to pursue to be able to deliver profit. That is, look, let me tell you, that is a high level skill. It's a high level skill. Look, there's another higher level skill that I talk about. That is making decision under ambiguity. You know, there are certain people in which the only time they want to make decisions is when they have all the information. But you need to get to that level on the job whereby you have the confidence to make decisions even when you don't have the full range of information. And you notice something about your transcendent skills. There are skills that translate very much as you begin to go higher, as you go in management, as you go into senior management. They translate. Those are the kind of skills that they are looking for with a manager. You don't necessarily, as a manager, people are not looking for your technical skills in terms of how you should be able to do the job. They believe that you should actually have people who should be able to execute based on technical competence. What really differentiates you are your transcendent skills, and those are things which you need to do. So it's very much important for you as you're trying to position yourself for the right job or position yourself for the right opportunity, whether in the workplace, whether in the business. You need to realize, look, what are the skills? What are the jobs that really align with the skills that I need? And what are the skills do I need to build? So that's the first thing which you need to have in place. The second thing which you need is you need to have the ability to lead high-performing teams. It is either this, it is that you come into a high-performing team and you make them continue to perform better, or you transform a low-performing team into a high-performing team. Very, very much important, because you will get to a point in your career where you realize that it's impossible for you to do the work all by yourself. You need to do it through people. You need to provide that sort of inspirational leadership that would make people, look, I am willing to go the 9 yards for you. Very, very much important. That kind of inspirational skill that would make inspirational leadership that would make people commit to you because they believe in the direction that you are leading them. Very, very much important. You need to have that in your backbone. Leadership is an essential. And you know, one of the things I tell people here is that when it comes to leadership, there are 2 levels of leadership. There's one, leading when you are in charge, which most of us are familiar with. You are the head of a department, you are the head of this team or things like that. And leading when you are not in charge. Now, leading when you are not in charge, that's the kicker skill. Because really, in that particular point in time, you may end up even leading people who are even senior to you in the organizational hierarchy. And in those particular situations, you need to have mastered the skill of leading by objectives, whereby you're able to bring people together simply because of the common goal that we share. A few years back, there was a particular time in which I wanted to set together a committee for a particular project that we were about to implement. And for me, the best person that was meant that I could put for the role was actually most junior in that particular team. And the reason why I gave him that responsibility was that, look, his role in the organization, he, based on what he does on a daily basis, he gets to see the overall picture of what is happening in the business. Whereas all the other senior people, they were all siloed in terms of everybody's thinking about my function, my business area, my function. And I remember when I was sitting down, I was telling him I was to take that. I told him that, look, I am not making you the team leader to be the secretary. I expect you to actually drive performance in the team. And he did a good job. But the bottom line here is this: he had to realize that he was leading by objectives, not leading by authority. And for most of us, we are used to leading by authority, whereby simply because I occupy a particular position, I basically have to get everybody to really, really come into believing whatever it is that I said. Now, the final thing that you need to have in place for under your professional power is this: you need to be able to maximize your productivity and performance by managing your energy and focusing on high value priorities. Now, let me just tell you this. I'm sure you've heard this phrase that everybody tells you that time is money. I'm sorry, I don't believe that time is money. Do you know what is money in my own book? It is your energy and focus. Because time is linear. It means that 1 minute, 60 seconds makes 1 minute, 60 minutes make 1 hour, 24 hours makes 1 day. It's linear. But the difference between your focus and your energy is that your focus and your energy ebbs and flows. Your focus and your energy when you start in the morning is not the same thing as your focus and energy when you are in the middle of the day, or when it depends on your circadian rhythm, depending for everybody. But you see, what you have to realize is that as a knowledge worker, the best output which you deliver is when your energy and your focus is high. And so what you need to do is you need to make sure you protect your energy and your focus, so that as much as possible you are focusing on your high priority transactions. Let me explain what I mean. So for example, there are important tasks that you need to do in the business. You need to make sure that, look, you put those priorities and those tasks to when your focus and your energy is at its peak, because that means you'll be able to think clearly, you'll be able to think at a higher level that particular task really, really requires. So with that, you complete everything under your professional power. And I've told you, your professional power basically drives your ability to deliver results. And so we come to the final thing. The final thing is your organizational power. Now, what does your organizational power help you? It helps you to lead a life of influence in the workplace. An influence that allows you to even transcend, for example, even your workplace, where you become, as it were, an industry player. Now, first thing you need to do if you want to grow in your organizational power, number one is this: you need to deliver the kind of service that helps you achieve top of mind recognition with your customers and your clients. Now, one of the things I always tell people here is this, and this is where it really gets even important, even for those of us that are running our business, is that, look, for example, for those who have a job, I always tell people that, look, when they give you your JD is not your work manual, it's just your work guide. Because if you only work based on your JD, you will not be delivering anything out of the ordinary. You will just become a commodity, which, as it were, anybody can just go on LinkedIn and just punch in that they want a CV and they basically get. But for you, you need to deliver the kind of value that differentiates you within the marketplace. Now, let me give you an example. There are 3 levels of value that I always talk about that people need to bring in the workplace. There's your functional value, there's the emotional value, and there's the transcendent value. Now, let me explain this. Your functional value, that is basically your ability to do the task. Emotional value is the ability for you to address the emotional concerns of the people that you are delivering the task for. And transcendent value is the ability for you to keep the people that they are delivering value for completely satisfied. Now, let me explain how it goes. So, I remember when I first started my early days in my career, I was working in an asset management firm. And before I joined, there was this report that my department was meant to be providing. It's a weekly report every Friday that my department was meant to be providing. As it so happens, they would always have the meeting by 4 p.m. Before I joined, a number of times the report would only arrive, as it were, when they get into the meeting. Sometimes the meeting would have even started, and then they would bring the report into the meeting. Now, the report had nothing to do with us. The report was basically the report of the portfolio manager's performance, and they were supposed to report on their performance to the relationship managers. And so the relationship manager was supposed to use that to communicate to their clients that this is the performance on their portfolios and everything. So as you can imagine, you bring the report in right when the meeting is happening. And then on the report, the portfolio manager sees that all the performance of his portfolio are all down. You know, the first thing the portfolio manager says, this report is wrong. It cannot be right. You ask them, why is it wrong? Nobody's going to do it. Just say, it cannot be right. Why? Simply because it's showing a negative performance. So, of course, for the first few months or few weeks that I joined the organization, it was still that bad. We still used to deliver it late. But I found a way of basically optimizing the system, and I was able to deliver the report at a point in time. I was cutting it in almost like 3 hours to the meeting, such that what I would just do is I would even send the report out before the meeting. But guess what? If I just stopped at that, that would basically just be fulfilling a functional value. Because I realized one thing: the portfolio manager does not want to go into that meeting looking like a fool. The portfolio manager wants to go into that meeting get with answers ready to be able to address whatever the relationship manager is asking. At the same time, the relationship manager wants to know that, look, she's going into this meeting and she's going to get the kind of answers that she'll be able to communicate to their client. So how was I going to achieve that? So number one thing I did was this: by being able to compress the time in which I got that report out. I think at the point in time I was getting that report out like 3 hours before the meeting. What I would now do is this: I would first send it to the portfolio managers. So when I send the report to the portfolio manager, I tell them to have a look at it, give me their feedback. So sometimes they will now look at it and be like, there's this portfolio that I booked the transaction on that the broker has not yet confirmed. I need to check if the broker has done it so that I can update the transaction. So you have situations like that. And there are sometimes in which the portfolio performance is just bad. But in that particular situation, the portfolio manager has had the opportunity of going to the portfolios. He knows the answers he's supposed to give to every one of the questions. And so we show up at the meeting and we are just basically sitting down and just watching everybody have good conversations. Now, what I basically did was I could have stayed at just the level of just delivering functional value, of just delivering a report. No, but I decided to go beyond that. I addressed the emotional value which the portfolio manager wanted to address, and that's the fact that the portfolio manager did not want to be look like a fool when he showed up into the meeting. And at the same time, I was also able to address the concerns of the relationship manager. The relationship manager being confident that, look, she's going into a meeting where she's going to get adequate answers to whatever questions that she's going to be facing with her client. That's how you multiply value within the value chain. And by being able to do that, look, what you are doing is you are moving yourself from being a commodity. You are moving yourself to a value asset. You are achieving top of mind recognition. And look, this applies even for an entrepreneur, whether you're running your business. Don't just think on the premise or the basis of, look, I'm just going to deliver this product and people can do whatever it is that they like with it. It's all up to them. No, you should be able to think beyond the ordinary. You should be able to deliver the kind of value that helps you achieve top of mind recognition with your customers, such that, look,
recording in progress.
I had a friend of mine who was telling me about a particular painting that he bought. So he said he bought the painting, and after buying the painting from the person delivered the painting to him. And then guess what? After delivering the painting to him, the person sent him, this is Nigeria, the person sent him a WhatsApp and said, oh, thank you very much for your order, appreciate that, and things like that. Then later on, some days later, he sent him, oh, would you like to have that painting as something like a small picture that you could put in your phone or something, whatever, something like that. And the guy was like, oh, thank you very much. He sent it to him. Then I think he did something else. Do you understand? Added value to that whole relationship. He said, whereas he had somebody in which he bought another painting from the person, immediately the person delivered the painting, that was the end of the transaction. And he said later when he wanted to buy another painting, guess who came to mind with him? It was the guy who did follow up to ask him, do you want me to give you a smaller image of it that you can use at your phone display? Do you want me this? You understand that sort of thing? That's the way you need to think in terms of the value that you bring to the marketplace. Now, the second thing you have to do in terms of building your influence is this. You need to be clear, not just clear. You need to have a great sense of communication to all the various generations that you have in the workplace. You know, one of the things I always tell people is that, in case you don't know, you have at least 4 generations of people within the workplace. You have your baby boomers, you have your millennials, you have Generation X, and you have your Gen Zers. So you can imagine 4 generations. And every one of them have different ways in which they like to communicate with you. The way you communicate with your baby boomer is different with the way you communicate with a millennial. I was speaking with someone a while back in which we were talking about different things which he could do to improve his productivity on the job and reduce some of the time he was doing on other non-productive. And so I gave him some recommendation. Immediately when we were talking about the particular, he was telling me that, oh, I've told my boss this already. And he told me this was the response his boss said. Immediately he told me his response. I said, your boss is a baby boomer. He said, yes. Because why that response already told me the generation, but it's not a lose-lose situation. It just means that he needs to frame that conversation in a way that aligns with that particular generation. And that's something which all of us have to learn. And for those of you guys that are going outside, you understand, you work in different parts of the world. Look, you also have to learn how to customize your conversation. Look, for example, the way in which I was speaking with people when I was in Spain is different from the ways in which I was speaking with people when I was in Senegal. You need to learn to customize your conversation for the audience that you are engaging with. It's very, very much important in this country. It's what you call cross-cultural fluency. It's the ability for you to be able to navigate different cultures, irrespective of the people involved, and still succeed within that culture. Something very, very much important, especially in this kind of world whereby everywhere is very, very much spread. Now, the final thing which you need to have in developing your organizational power is this. You need to have the ability to build strong work relationships that lead to mutual wins. Now, I'm sure you've heard this story. Everybody always says that everybody is in the workplace for themselves. But for you, it has to be different. You have to have the skill of being able to manage on the same level as the people that are with you on the same level, and then also managing up people. And when I say managing up, I'm not saying you have to kowtow to the people who are up there and basically be, oh, whatever it is that you say, my boss. No, but you just have to learn the skill of actually navigating the workplace in a way that you are seen as a collaborator. If you don't develop this ability, what you find out is that that your influence within the organization will just be limited to your team members. The only people who will know about you will just be your team members. And sometimes your ability to navigate across other departments, navigate across other, whether it's same level or whether it is above, your ability to navigate with them would actually be what will position you for higher roles of opportunity within the organization and even position you for opportunities outside of the organization. For example, it's not impossible. You might actually be prospected for a job based on referral from somebody that you navigated well with when you are in the organization, and the person might be in another organization. And with that, we've basically been able to cover everything that you have under your organizational power. So I'm going to repeat just to bring everything home once again. I said for you to succeed and excel in the competitive workspace that we find ourselves, there are three things you need to have in place. You need to have your personal power. Your personal power is basically your ability to live life on the basis of the things that are important to you. Basically live life on your terms. And then number two, you need to have professional power. Your professional power is basically the ability to get results on the job. And then finally, we talked about your organizational power, which is basically your ability to grow your influence beyond where you're currently working to become not only just an organizational player, even an industry player. And I believe very much your ability to harness these three powers will actually position you in the right place that you need to be within your career, whether it's running a business or whether it's actually leading a business. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I am here to answer the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tola. We really, really appreciate it. I hope we all learned something. Does anyone have questions? Because if you don't have questions, maybe we should ask you questions. Any question, anybody? Before we take questions, can we all give him a round of applause? You can do that with the reactions.
Clap, 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 clap.
Yeah, clap that. All right. So does anyone have any questions? So I will take that as a no. So if no one has questions, can I ask questions? Just to be sure that we are all on the same page and we actually listening. Yeah, Korede, did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for the teaching. First of all, I wanted to ask if it was possible to get slides because you actually spoke, somewhat fast, and I wasn't able. I don't know if every other person was, and the recording kind of came in late, so we couldn't kind of like get um all of the information. That's number one. That's just a random one. It would be greatly appreciated if it was possible to get all of the information somehow. Then, secondly, I wanted to ask for someone who, what's the word? Is there like a list in trying to define one's personal values? Like, because I mean, when you first mentioned it, I was like, oh wow, what would that be? And then when you mentioned what yours were, it seemed so succinct and like straightforward. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But then I imagine that the same way, yours was very capturing. I imagine that if I heard someone else's one, it would be the same. So, like, what is there like a let's say a guide of some sort to choosing, not like, at the end of the day everyone has to make decision by themselves as to what is important to them based on what they want their life story to be eventually. But I'm just asking, like, is there a guide of some sort that we can implement in figuring what that is, like to figure it out, and what's the word, to take that first step, because it literally is the first step towards the fulfillment of every other step that you've explained so far. I was just, if there's a way we could get that. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Olua Korede. I hope I got that right. So, first and foremost, there is no slides. I was not presenting with slides. It's what I presented was basically it's a part of me. So basically, it's extemporaneously that I've spoken everything to you. So, but I'm actually recording everything I've been saying. So even if they didn't record it, I have the recording from the beginning. So what I can do is I can share the recording with the team. So with regards to values, so there are two ways in which you can do it. Okay, there are two ways. Okay, there are
Thank
two
you
ways
so
in which
much.
you're welcome. So there are two ways in which you can do with regards to values. Number one, you can sit down and do it yourself or work with a coach, or you can use a cheat. You can use a cheat method. The cheat method here is this. Now, let me just. I think number one thing I need to tell you here is this: with regards to your values, please let's realize one thing. As we grow as individuals, we become better at defining what our values are. That's one thing I need to make very clear. As we grow as individuals and as persons, we become better at refining our values. But I'm going to share a link for you guys on the chat. Use that link. That link would actually serve as a guide. And I'll tell you what I mean by the guide. It's a personal values test. So there are a list of
Sorry,
different
sorry,
values that.
but I'll have 1 minute.
Yes, sorry.
Kachi, please, can you mute your mic? Thank you very much. Please continue.
Okay, so the link I'm going to be sharing with you is just it's a good way of actually starting the journey of being able to find out what your values are, and what that test site is going to do is it's actually going to show you what they're just a couple of things that you probably wouldn't do, but but it's a good test to start with. It's going to be a good way for you to actually understand and start your values. So I hereby paste the link on the chat, which you can use to start your journey of knowing your values. I'm sure by the time you do this a couple of times, and this link, they actually do a bit of work for you. They do a bit of the heavy lifting, at least at the inception. As I said, as you get better at evaluating, understanding your values, you'll be able to do it better for yourself without even having to do this. But this is a very good way to start. And thank you very much for the question. Okay. I think I've answered. Those are the two questions you had. So you said, can you speak on how to? This is from Sister Jane. It's a pleasure to always meet you again, Sister Jane. Can you speak on how to come back from a burnout mentally and career-wise? So, number one thing, if you have a burnout, number one, you need to get help. Very much important, because I'm sure most of us know it's the pressure to deliver keeps on increasing by the day. And so the way in which I would look at almost like a three-step process. Number one, you need to get healing and counseling. And I hope Sister Bruce is still here. She probably might be able to speak on that a lot better. Anyway, you need to get healing and counseling for yourself. That's number one. After you've gotten healing and counseling for yourself, the next thing which you now need to do here is this: whoever it is that is taking you to healing and counseling would actually give you the necessary tools before you come into the workplace again, because those tools would serve as, number one, there are two things those tools should help you. Number one, the tools should be able to help you identify your trigger conditions, as in the things that trigger you to hit that blockage mentally. So once they give you that tools for you to be able to identify, the next thing they would also give you is the tools for you to be able to cope with, and you being able to clearly being able to manage and address it. Now, the third thing, after you've gotten your healing, you have the necessary tools, it's then I would say you can now talk about coming back into the workplace. So those are the three things, those are the three steps I will talk about with regards to that. I don't know, Sister Busi, are you somewhere there? I know Sister Busi might probably be able to speak better on the issue of counseling, if she's still there. Yeah, but that's my own perspective from at least a bit of the experiences. And it's interesting. I actually had a personal friend of mine back in Spain. Her own burnout was actually even initiated as a result of the thing. She's a medical person. Was as a result of the things that happened during COVID. Some of the pressures of everything that she experienced during COVID. She was still battling with it. At least up until last year, she had to take a significant extended time off from work. That she was at home, she had to go through therapy, etc., and things like that. I mean, we even visited with them, we met with them, and things like that. So, it's only now that she seems to be better at coping at it that towards the end of last year, they were like, okay, yeah, now she can go back into the marketplace. So, I understand how it is. You just have, like I said, first get healing, then get the tools before you now talk about re-entry to the work marketplace. Yeah, that would be my own thoughts.
All right, thank you so much. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, Angie, I have a question, two questions.
Sure.
So, Botola, thank you so much. Please, can you speak on one, those that, some of us that might be asking ourselves that, okay, we're talking about excelling in the workplace, but I don't even have a job to start with, or maybe I'm in between jobs and I'm trying to get something. So is there any advice that you can kindly give on making that process easier to get a job? And then two is that for those of us that may feel stuck in our careers, it's like you've just been in the same position for years, or the same, you want something better. Can you just speak on that?
Okay. So let me just be sure I have it.
And then there is another question in the chat, so probably after this one you can take it.
Yeah. So you're talking about what would be important for the person to get a job, or somebody who doesn't have a job, or someone who is in between jobs. Now it's interesting too. I was speaking with someone. The person is in Canada. The person has been in Canada for like 15 months, and the person was telling me that, look, I want to get a job as a business analyst, but that's not the job that I have. That they're saying. She said she wants to do business analyst with an IT. That she wanted jobs in business analyst with an IT focus, but she doesn't have that experience, and because of that, she's not able to get the kind of job that she wants and things like that. So first thing I told her, I was like, look, have you tried to look for unpaid gigs that you can do along that line? Have you tried to look for opportunities for you to partner with people who are doing these particular jobs, who might give you the opportunity to build that experience? Because the question you have to ask yourself here is, okay, where do you want to go into? So for example, let's say you want to go into a particular industry and you don't have the experience. Sometimes you may have to acquire that experience by offering to do work for free. I mean, I have someone in which this person was in the UK, so she is that interested. She also wanted to be a business analyst, and so she did business analyst in the particular school where she trained. And after she finished the training, there were opportunities for them to be part of certain projects, but it was not going to be a paid opportunity. You just do it for free. But I was like, go ahead and do it, because it gives you opportunity to build the reps within that particular industry. That look, okay, you've done this project, you are building your experience, and then it will get to a point whereby it becomes your calling card to get a particular job. So what I would say here is this: you want to get a job or you are in between jobs. The question you have to ask is, okay, where do you want to go? What are the barriers to getting into that place? What is the next thing that you can do to beat that career? Sometimes you may have to take another job which may not be the job you want on the road to getting the job you want, meaning that you take a job to keep body and soul whilst you are now trying to make everything work so that you can get the job that you really, really want. So I hope I've been able to answer that. The second question, for somebody who is stuck in a job and wants something better. Now, this is a rather interesting question. Now, the reason why I said it's a rather interesting question is that it's not impossible, and I'll tell you that almost everybody has had that situation in their career whereby your career might not be moving at the pace at which you want. And there are times, look, for example, when I started my career, I moved. I mean, I was head of fund accounts department of one of the largest asset management firm within 2 to 3 years of starting my career. I mean, so I had that kind of, and then there was a time in which it seemed like everything slowed down, it plateaued. Not so much of a plateau, but there was a significant slowdown in my career. So there are times in which you have those sort of things, and in those sort of situations, you need to learn to sit back and ask yourself, look, what do you really, really want? What are the things that are really, really important to you? Now, why are these questions important? Because if you don't take the time enough to be able to sit back and understand, what you may end up having is you may end up just jumping and jumping and jumping. You understand? So for example, let's say you're at a point whereby you're stuck on a job. The first thing I would ask you is that, look, is the job allowing you to be able to meet your basic necessities? That's number one. If the job is allowing you to make your basic necessities, okay, then the next thing we have to start doing is that you don't have to sit down, and I'll probably recommend sit down with somebody who is wiser. You understand? Somebody who is wiser, who can probably ask you the questions that need to be asked before you make your next transition move. Because it is not always wise to make a transition move when you feel you are desperate or you are out of options. And so sometimes it is better for you to, let me give you an example. I was talking with someone who had worked in not-for-profit most of her career, and she was thinking that it's time for her to make a career transition, and she was telling me that, oh, she feels she's stuck, like she doesn't think that because she's worked in the not-for-profit all this while, she doesn't think that she can get jobs outside of not-for-profit. So I asked her, so what is it that you've been doing in this not-for-profit? She said she's been developing curriculum in these things and things like that. I said, look, by the time she told me everything, I said, look, you just created the possibility of you going into management consulting. Because look, what you've been able to do is or training consulting, you've been able to develop different curriculums that meet different particular needs within that not-for-profit. All you can do is you can translate that same skill into a particular industry. You just need to know the nuances of the industry. But that skill is still very much relevant. And that's the reason why I said sometimes it's necessary to have a conversation with somebody who can see further than you. Whereby you are, like I said, this person was seeing her skill simply based on the industry where that skill she had can translate to whatever industry. She just needs to know how to speak the nuances of that particular industry that you'll be going into. So if you feel stuck, you feel that you want something better, first thing, if the job is paying your bills, I wouldn't advise you to jump. Get the opportunity of speaking with somebody who can ask you the right questions. If the job is not paying your bills, that is another strain of pressure. And what I would say is you try and address that pressure by getting a job immediately. Another job, you might just tell yourself that this job is just another stopgap job, just to be able to catch up on your bills. So that it is now when you get to the point of catching up on your bills, you probably might be in a better position to make a better informed decision. Because really, when you have bills piling up on you, it's very difficult for you to think clearly, unless you have somebody who can take that pressure of that bill, which is why I said get a job that can take that pressure of it. Why you now think and strategically analyze, okay, what's the job that you really, really want to go for? So last question, what's the word advice you give to someone resuming a new job that would give him the drive, that would help him drive performance in his unit? Okay, so number one thing which you have to do if you are taking up a new job here is this, and taking from someone who has had to transition into new environments whereby I don't know the people that I'm meeting with. We speak different languages, different cultures. What means something in my language is completely different from my own language. Number one thing which you have to do is this: you have to spend the first few days of you listening. I always say go on a listening tour. Now, the reason why you want to go on a listening tour is that, look, you want to find out what ticks with the people that you are going to be working with. Because if you don't know what ticks with the people that you're going to be working with, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to customize your results, to be able to match what it is that they really, really want. So for me, first thing I would say is that, look, the first few days, try to do on the listening tour. What I mean by listening tour, try to listen to them, even tell you things that you should already know about. Don't, and sometimes you're trying to prove that you know things. You'll be like, no, I already know this. You don't need to know. Sometimes showing people that they are dead is a good way to make them feel happy with you. So, for example, there are times in which people come and they start telling me things that I already know about, but just the fact that it makes them feel important, that they're actually telling me something that they think I don't know, makes them feel that they're actually adding value to me. And when people feel that they're adding value to you, there's just a sense of reciprocity that happens, that because they feel that they're adding value to you, they too also, most people generally would want that opportunity for them to also receive from you. So it builds that rapport, because look, when it comes to the workplace, you first have to get along with people before you actually get the job done best. And that's one thing. You need to get along, unless you decide you want to run a one-man shop. If you want to run a one-man shop, then you have to you tell yourself you're not going to get along. But if you want to run with a team, then number one, you have to get along with people, which is why first thing I say, go on a listening tour, try to understand people, know people, and then once you do that, you can now actually identify how it is that you can actually provide that exceptional service that they want. Once you're able to understand that, that would be my advice for you. And my recommendation would be this: set for yourself the first 21 days. First 21 days, you want to complete your listening tour. You want to have at the back of your mind almost what it is that is going to make you a superstar to the different people that you serve within the workplace. Yeah, that would be my thoughts to you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the advice. I think I got it.
Okay,
I picked up everything. Thank you, Tola.
you're welcome.
All right. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Tola. Really
Tola.
appreciate.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, sir. Please, I have one more question, if you
All
don't
right.
mind. And my question is can you say something like, in this world of a digital age and all of that, social media and all of that, can you speak a little on leveraging? I know this is a different ball, but if you can just say a word or two as regards this, on leveraging social media, networking, upgrading your career, and some of these tools, LinkedIn, etc., in upgrading your career, getting a job, getting basically getting yourself beyond where you are. Can you just share a word or two of counsel on that? Thank you.
Okay. So I think the first rule they always tell you with regards to social media is that know the rules of each social media that you are going to be playing with, and follow that rule. That's the only way in which you are going to excel. So, for example, if you are in LinkedIn, you know the only thing you have to share in LinkedIn is you have to share. You have to share professional related stuff. Now, in sharing professional related stuff, you need to share it in a way that you don't devalue the organization that you are currently part of. Because look, the organization that you are hoping you are going to prospect will see the way you treat the organization you are currently in, or the organizations that you've left, and they will take a cue from that, oh, that's the way it's going to also treat us. Especially when it gets to the point where you want to be seen as an industry player, there are certain things that become important, and especially if you want to be seen as an industry player, you need to publish things that are relevant to your industry. For example, for those of you who are friends with me on social media, you find out that there are things I post on Facebook that you will never see on LinkedIn. There are hardly things I post in LinkedIn that will not come to Facebook, but that's the rules of it. There are certain things that would only be there are certain things that would only be on Facebook. They would never come into LinkedIn, because I know the rules of how it is. And from those sort of things, the other thing you also have to realize is that once you come into that social media environment of, number one, you are posting something that is relevant to that particular area. The other thing which you also have to be ready, you have to be ready to help. What I mean by help here is this: in networking with people, the easiest way to network with people is actually showing how you want to help people. Look, let me give you an example. There is someone in which I'll tell you the origin of how this whole relationship started. He was part of an event that I attended, I think post 2020 or 2021, virtually. And then after the event, I went to LinkedIn, found him on LinkedIn, and then I sent him an invite. Oh, thank you very much for the privilege of, I mean, I really liked the conversation, sorry, what you spoke at. I really appreciate it. I met you there, and, he accepted my invite, and that was it. And then, I'm trying to remember, afterwards, I had seen a couple of things he posted. I would maybe acknowledge what he posted. Then afterwards, I just sent him an ebook. Sorry, an audiobook. I got an audiobook. I just sent it to him as he could. Oh, thank you very much for everything you do. I really appreciate it. I sent him an audiobook. Yeah, that was it. And then earlier this year, there was a book. When he wrote a book, was it like a year and a half or two ago? I read the book, and when I read the book, I really, really liked the book. I said I was going to write a review for the book, but for some strange reason, I basically forgot to write it. And then it just popped up in my head at the beginning of January. I was like, man, this book that I wrote, I said, let me write the review for it. And I wrote the review, I posted it, I tagged it. Immediately he saw the review. Oh, guess what? He just sent me a direct message. I said, oh, thank you very much for the review. By the way, I'm going to be traveling to here at this particular point in time. Are you going to be there? I was like, oh, sure. I said, oh, that would be great. It would be a good time for us to meet, etc. and things like that. I didn't ask him that I wanted to meet. He was the one that, on the basis of me being generous, he agreed, oh, let's meet. And then when we met there, he invited me to come over to the event that he was having. I came over to the event, etc. and things like that. And from meeting him at that event, I was like, I told him I wanted to discuss a couple of things with him. Look, this is someone in which he probably would pay to get a coaching session with. No problem, sure. He said, send me a direct message. I sent him a direct message. We got on Zoom. I think we spent like 30 minutes or whatever speaking. Then after I spoke, he was like, oh, no problem, that in a month's time, check out with me. Let me know the update of how it is that you're going. Can you believe that? This is something I could have paid for, but simply because I built that relationship over time. And like I told you, I probably connected with him first and foremost on LinkedIn towards the end of 2020 or / beginning of 2021. And I've just let that relationship grow organic. So don't be in a hurry when you connect or network with people. And even from the conversation that we had, it was like, oh, there's somebody else I think you should connect with. This is the person. He sent me the person's LinkedIn thing. I sent an invite to the person. I just piggybacked on the person. Then that, oh, so person, I was having a conversation with him. I said, oh, you'd be a good person for me to connect with. And simply because I put it that way, the person accepted my connection. So that's the way I would say, number one, know the rules of the social media platform that you are playing. And number two, be generous. Finally, be patient. You build relationship gradually. Don't be in a hurry. Immediately you get to start milking you want to milk the relationship. Yeah, that's it. So that would be, oh yeah, good. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. This is very good. Yeah, having a 30, 60-day plan. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. So, any last minute questions? This is your chance. You have like 3 minutes. If you have any last minute questions that just popped up in your mind. None. Okay. So, in the absence of any more questions, can we please give Tola another round of applause? Thank you so much for your time and for imparting us with this knowledge. It has been very helpful for me, and I'll still see you at the back. But thank you so much. We're really grateful, and it was nice to see you too. Again.
Yeah, it's always nice to see you. You've forgotten me since you went to Canada. That's how life is. I forgive you.
I did not forget you. Is this life is something?
Yeah, but Tola, please, before you go, I don't know if you would be kind enough to share the workplace multiplier course that you have.
Okay.
And other resources you think may be helpful to the house.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do something. I will share. Okay. I think. Okay. What I will do is this. I will share a book I wrote. It was like 21 lessons I learned from. I think I'll share that 21 lessons I learned in my career. So I think I'll share it. It's a collection of 21 different lessons, but I hope you guys being able to practice some of them would help you guys in your career. So that's noted. I will share it. I will send it to on the social media group. On the WhatsApp group that we have, so that you guys can access it. Noted.
All right. So thank you so much.
Okay. I would say goodbye to everybody then. See ya. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother.
All right. Thank you.
Very
Thank
much
you, sir.
value.